as requested by the CTF community, I am once again back doing a podcast. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be going over the trades, the overall seed season, and of course, the tournament that is coming up very, very soon. I am so excited to do this. It's been a very long time since I've done a podcast. I won't be showing my face or anything crazy like that, but anyhow, we'll be opening it up with the Season 3 trades, and the first trades were actually before the draft. So teams can actually trade their picks, which were determined by last season. If they were the best team, they probably got the worst picks. If they were the worst team, they got the best picks, and so on. We got a trade from the Bloxers and the Illuminas here. The Illuminas trade their number 3 pick and their number 16 pick off to the Bloxers as they go down in round 1. They trade down, but they do get that higher round 2 pick. Meanwhile, the Bloxers go for a higher round 1 pick and a lower round 2 pick. Wow, what a crazy trade by both of these teams. The Illuminas, as you will know, and as we found out, the Illuminas traded down because they didn't think that Seeb would be drafted high, and they wanted Seeb, so they Tara and Illuminas traded down to get Seeb, and also to get Seeb a better top 2, or just a solid, great all-around top 2 player. Seeb drafted in round 1 for the first time ever. Meanwhile, the Bloxers, they go for that number 3 pick because they want Vinci. I know, shocking. Isn't that crazy? The Bloxers pass on Patrick, and they go with Vinci this time around. As I believe it was number 1 pick was Russell, number 2 was Beth, and then number 3 was Vinci. So the Bloxers say they part their ways with Patrick as they say goodbye. And remember, this is a new mall map too. So they get a brand new map. Same with the Luminas as well. There are new maps in this game now. And the Bloxers, Patrick, 2 seasons in a row for them, get them bronze. They need to try and find someone else. And I guess they run with Vinci. Of course, the bad news is that they get that number 16 pick in second round, so it's a little lower, but at the same time, they're getting Vinci. You never, ever want to skip on Vinci, and they go for him. But yeah, what a crazy trade here, and that's kind of what caused these draftings. This trade was a huge one. Now, the other 2 trades are a little weird, right? Because this is the first time we've ever seen a draft restriction in a trade. But we got the Firebirds and the Scorpions, and the Firebirds, they actually trade up, but they are not allowed to draft a player. So it's like a draft restriction. They're not allowed to draft a player the Scorpions want. Now, the thing is, the Pirates, I believe, have the number 32 pick. So the Pirates could have easily drafted that person. I don't believe they went for them. They want someone else. But, the Scorpions, they trade down. They're hoping that if they can just trade down, they can, get this player at a lower, pick overall. Remember, there's more picks now because the Scorpions are a brand new team. Scorpions trade down, and they also tell the Luminas you cannot draft this player. So it's very interesting because the Pirates, their position doesn't change. They're in the middle of all of this trade business. And people are very confused about this. My main theory is that Archie was trying to get, this player, this is a new player, Icy. So Icy was not allowed to be traded. He wanted to get Icy as low as possible. I don't know why, but maybe it's like going for an award or something. They knew that Icy, no one knew who Icy was. And Archie was like, I'm going to get him very low. So we'll see if the award idea pans out. I don't really know if that's 100% the reason, obviously, but they trade down twice and give the Luminas and the Firebirds, a higher pick. So very interesting stuff. Next up, we got our first player trades. So I believe the Knights, they trade for Exquinity, and they trade Alexia back to the Mercenaries. Alexia really hadn't said anything, and no one really knows what was happening. So unfortunately, Alexia got moved to the Mercenaries, but that's okay. Alexia, I highly doubt, Alexia was that engaged or crazily involved with CTF anyway, but they get Exquinity, which is great because Exquinity is now back as a Knight. We'll have to see if it pans out, of course. The Knights, unfortunately, I think they got Exquinity really late in season 2, so that's probably, it's nice to at least get Exquinity for a full season now, as they get him very early on in week 1. Next up, though, we got, wow, what a jump. We literally just jumped from the beginning of the season all the way to almost the end. This is the 3rd week out from the end in the trade deadline. Bam! this is one of the biggest trades, I think, of the season. And this one freaked people out, which I still think, yes, the Firebirds get a huge benefit. They get Shark on their team. Shark hasn't played a single league game, mind you, though, and he hasn't really played CTF in a very long time. And they trade Boro off. Boro wasn't really working out with their time zones, and so they unfortunately had to trade Boro off. And they weren't going to be able to probably get Boro's games done. But Sharkius joins the Firebirds, I should say, fights the Pirates. Remember, he was a mercenary actually in week 1. So I guess technically when this trade happened, he had played a game. And they tied actually. It was a mercenary game. It was the Pirates at Knights. And they went to overtime. Unfortunately, the Shark, when he was a Pirate, lost. And then he fought the Pirates when he got traded to the Firebirds, which is kind of funny. But yeah, Sharky is now on the Firebirds. The main reason this trade happened was because there was worry that Poke wasn't going to be able to play much throughout this season. And so the Firebirds had to quickly find someone that could be that top 2 caliber duo. Poke, or at least, people were worried about, like, how Poke was doing as well in CTF. People, at least for me, like, and a few other people, we were like, has Poke kind of regressed? You know what I mean? This kind of like idea that maybe they need another, a little more depth to help them out. At this point in the season, they were struggling. I think they were like mid-table though, so it wasn't crazy of a trade. They weren't in a horrible situation, but just great depth grabbing for the Firebirds here. And Boro gets sent to the Mercenaries. Just kidding. He gets traded right back to another team, the Aliens, actually. And so Boro gets on the Aliens. The Aliens are like, oh, fine, we'll take Boro. And it actually worked out better because Boro's in near the other alien European time zones, so Boro just works really well for them. So what a pickup for the Aliens, getting Boro Toto. Unfortunately, they do trade away Kool-Aid. However, Kool-Aid really didn't work with his time zone, so, like, unfortunately, Kool-Aid, I think he was, like, across the world from me, or at least, like, other, and even their own players. So Kool-Aid, unfortunately, was just really far away, and he wasn't really able to get on for any of the practices and stuff. So unfortunately he had to get traded, but he is a champion. He's the season 2 champ. Remember that, guys. Kool-Aid, unfortunately, on the Mercs, but at the same time, Kool-Aid, been a Merc for a long time, won it all last season, back to the Mercs, my team, the best team ever. But yeah, I think just Kool-Aid wasn't as active this season, and also the time zones really hurt. So Boyle, though, a huge pickup for them to get someone that's in the similar time zone. And yeah, we'll move over to week 7, and this is a big trade. Jornaz gets moved to the Mercenaries. So non-CTF just means like he wasn't involved in the league at all. And then I approved him joining the league, or at least joining the mercenary team. So this allowed him to be able to get actually traded, because basically non-player means like you don't play and you're not eligible for trade. And then mercenaries are like people who help in emergency situations, but can also be picked up by any team. So this allowed Gornaz to get picked up, and then a huge trade happens where Gornaz gets traded to the Dark Hearts for copper. And this was a heartbreaking trade because the Dark Hearts were really struggling in this like moment of CTF, and they just needed to find a top 2 duo. Unfortunately for Jovax, he was just super duper laggy every time he played. He did have some good games, even though he was lagging like crazy, but they needed to find some more depth, you know what I mean? And not to say copper isn't depth, they just needed someone that could push them through, and try to get those top 2 wins, because it's getting close to the tournament. Most teams just play their top 2 duos and try to win it all, and they need to have that. So that's why they do trade for Gornaz here. So Gornaz can join Crusader and Pig, and also Jovax as well. Now, Copper gets traded away, and this was heartbreaking because Copper really helped train Crusader, helped train Pigma, and also just helped practice throughout the season. You got to give Copper a lot of credit. From the behind the scenes, Copper was a really key factor for the Dark Hearts this season. And unfortunately, Copper gets traded to the Mercs, and it was heartbreaking to say the least. But it wasn't long until someone said, "Oh, I'll pick up Copper," and it was actually the Firebirds. So there was some drama. People were very upset with Shark getting traded to the Firebirds because they felt it was just literally unfair, I guess. For me, I didn't really see it as crazy unfair because, for me at least, Shark isn't the craziest player, and that's not being mean to Shark or anything also, but just like, the fact that like people were like, oh my gosh, and unfortunately Shark just said, yeah, I don't want to be involved with any controversy, and he ended up just leaving the server and stuff. So we had to trade him, and so the Firebirds, they traded Shark for Copper. So now Copper's back on Patrick and Poke's team, which is really funny, except they're on the Firebirds. But Copper gets traded from the Dark Hearts to the Firebirds in this instance. Sharky's played a couple games, got a couple wins for the Firebirds. He did play his part. I think there were 2 1-0 wins, very close games, especially with top 2 duos. And my like thing about it is that I do think Shark was fair because he was right at their level with Sonic and Alvin. And Sonic and Alvin had barely played this season, and they went to OT, almost lost, and until like one of them fell. So I forget which pirate fell, and then they won it. But just gotta say, like, this was a crazy, it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of skill, not only to just like win, but like also, a lot of chemistry as well. And for me, I felt like, Shark and Patrick were going to be a fun duo. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out, SMH, but at the same time, there's no more controversy, no more complaints. However, Sharkius, I gotta say, he's an awesome player, and I'm hoping he'll be able to sign up next season. People won't freak out, but that's obviously up to him, and whatever happens. But yeah, so huge trade, unfortunately for the Firebirds, but at the same time they get Copper. That's some depth right there, and yeah, they figure out a way to make a bad situation a little better, at least not crazy bad. What I mean? Still a downgrade, quote unquote. But at the same time, Copper, he has experience with Patrick and Poke, and it's not really a bad deal for them regardless. It's really sad to see Shark go to the Mercs, but at the same time, it's my team. We're the best. I'm just kidding. But after that, a huge trade in week 8. So we got more controversy to talk about in this one. Ha ha ha. Fun. Basically, what happened was there was something happening outside of the server, like completely outside in a group chat. And people were upset, and like I guess there was arguments and stuff. And so we got actually involved, Nox and we got involved, and we're like, what the hell, guys? Like, what is it? Like, why do we need to be here in the first place? And basically, we were there looking for Discord TOS breakage, or at least, breakage of league rules, also leaks as well. We were trying to find leaks as well, I'll be honest. But at the same time, it was a very, very bad group chat. There was a lot of just really bad comments made about people and stuff in the league, and just it was just an all-around trash situation. And obviously most group chats, they're gonna be toxic, they're not gonna be the best, but it was just kind of like, for a small community like ours to just see like a bunch of like toxicity toward people and etc. It was just like, come on, like, like we're better than that, what I mean? But yeah, I was just kind of like, okay. And I addressed all of it, and I actually ended up just giving everyone not suspensions, but just offenses. So like one offense, one warning, I guess you could say. Bethesda or Beth didn't really take. Beth was involved in the group chat, and they didn't take it well, and they ended up leaving, just straight up like leaving the entire platform. And so it was kind of a dire situation, and so we ended up trading Beth to the Mercs for HT, and thanks to HT for stepping up. It was, and HT didn't want to sign up. He didn't want to play. He ended up in it anyway. And yeah, I gotta say, this is the first time ever, by the way, a number 1 pick has been traded. Not only traded, but traded to the Mercenaries. So unfortunately, Beth quit like right at the end of the seed season after the Knights, I believe, finished with the worst record in the league, sadly. It wasn't a terrible record by any means. It's just like a tough ending because of the depth issues. But HT comes in and he says, okay, I'll just play because, because, why not at this rate? So HT joins Air, Xquinity, and Ben. And so, yeah, the Knights, some controversy there. And it wasn't just Beth, by the way, who was involved in that group chat. There were a few other players around the league that were in that group chat. But I'm just only mentioning it because that was the catalyst for this trade, for, the quitting and stuff. We ended up just sending Beth to non-players. as well. And, just because, quitting is actually against the rules, don't sign up if you don't want to play kind of thing. And so that was literally the final trade of the seed season. There's a lot that happened in this seed season. Was there as much as, let's say, the other two? No. You can see over here, we're on line, I think, 106. And you can see that it's quite far. Line 106 is right here. Yeah, you can see it is quite far. But, I think how many more trades were there? I think there were 4 more trades in Season 2. But still, a very busy season. I'd say we had a lot of trade action at the beginning of the season. It paused. We played most of the season, and then all of a sudden, teams realized they needed more or realized they needed to switch up, and that's when we started seeing tons of trades happening from week 6 to week 8. There was a lot of action in the team trade chat, that's for sure. But yeah, what a crazy season this has been. We'll move on to the actual seed season brackets here. And here we are, guys. Wow, look at this. So there's a few new things I added. I added games played this season because there are week buys now. So that means that there's 9 teams, so only 8 can play per week or per match week. So that's why. So sometimes a team would have 1 less game played throughout the season. A good example is the Scorpions played all of their games by week 8, and then the other teams caught up in week 9 and got their 8th games for rival week. But that's just an example. And then we also added a category called Round 1 Placement, or at least I did. And so this actually kind of gives you a visual of what happened. The 2 lime green teams are the wildcard teams. The first ever wildcard will be next. It'll be the first videos to release. That series is going to be a lot of fun. And then after that, it'll be number 1 seed versus whoever wins that wildcard match. And you can see that there's a higher mint color for number 2, number 7. That means, oh yeah, they're matching up. Number 3, number 6 matching up. And basically, it just gives you an idea of what the outcome is of seeds, the seed season and what's going to happen next. But the 602 record of the Illuminas is literally the record for the most wins in the seed season. Every other seed season, the most wins was 5. So they broke that. 6 wins, actually nuts. But they also did something even more impressive. They never lost a single game in regulation. They tied or won in all of their regulation matches. Now, they did lose 2 in overtime. And those were actually against the Pirates and the Aliens, which, fun fact, were the only teams to eliminate the Illuminas in Season 1 and Season 2, or at least the 2. So the teams that had already previously eliminated them from tournament contention actually beat them in the seed season. But the others, the Illuminas were able to get a lot of wins and a lot of points. They get a plus-minus of 5, the best of the plus-minuses of the season. And yeah, dude, 14 points out of the 16 maximum. If you go 8-0, you get 16 points. The Illuminas were only 2 points shy of literally the best possible scenario of the seed season. It is really, 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 really ridiculous. But enough about the Illuminas for now. The Aces, they finished with a 5-1-2 record. The second time in a row they finished with this record. They get 12 points. They lost their last 2 games just because they were playing, their round 3, round 4s. Had a plus-minus of 1, actually, so pretty low, but still had a lot of wins. A really good seed season by the Aces. The Aces, to me, had one of the most underrated, seasons because of the fact that, they had Fatini, Some Noob, Tabami, and Hugu. You could say a lot, but Rosie, she drafted a lot of players that were really unproven, that hadn't really won anything in CTF, and it was actually such a move. She got Fatini and Some Noob, a great top 2, but she also got Tabami, who was very unproven. He was round 4 caliber in Season 2, and he played spectacular this season, and also Hugu as well. Rosie drafted both of them together because they were actually friends, if you didn't know, which is kind of cool. But yeah, oh my gosh, what a season. The depth for the Aces, though, this season was amazing. Same with the Illuminas, by the way. That record wouldn't have happened without the depth. Next, though, the Firebirds, they tie with the Aces, but they lose the tiebreaker because the Aces did beat them this season. And they had 12 points, 5-1-2 record. They had 3 games winning streak, actually, by the end of it. And they actually had a plus-minus of 0. And they actually, only captured 6 flags and lost 6 flags, which is kind of crazy, but that's Volcano for you, I guess. But yeah, the Firebirds with a crazy season as well. I gotta say, this is their best ever record they've seen in the seed season, and very quiet, I guess you could say. Especially the Aces and the Luminas being in top two, very loud, like everyone knows. But the Firebirds had one heck of a season as well in the seed season. You gotta say, man. But oh my gosh, just crazy. The top three have 12 points. That's the first time that's ever happened, by the way. 12 points was literally first seed in season 2, and 11 points was first seed in season 1. So, oh my goodness, dude. Just actually crazy. The amount of overtimes, these are 3 overtime teams that lost in overtime more than actually lost in regulation. But yeah, crazy. The number 4 seed is Aliens. So when the Aliens found out, oh yeah, we have this 5-2-1 record. That was number 1 seed season 1. No, unfortunately, it's number 4. Isn't that nuts? They had a plus minus of 3. They were oh my goodness, dude. They were a very good team. They beat the Luminas. They barely lost to the Aces, and they did lose to the Firebirds. So I guess the 3 above them, they did ironically lose to those 3. But yeah, the Aliens. Very shocking, not even a top 2 placement for such a good season. Like, they had 5 wins as well. The top 4 teams had 5 wins. That is ridiculous. But yeah, Aliens had an impressive season, a good comeback by Rustlin, especially for the Aliens after an unfortunate season last season. And yeah, the Bloxers, though, oh my goodness, dude. It was really interesting for me because the Bloxers were hyped up to be this unstoppable team, but they actually, had a very mid-table record, 4-3-1 record, a solid record, but and a plus minus of 1 actually. But it's just nuts to me that people are like, oh, the Bloxers, and they finished number 5. They don't even get home advantage in their round 1 series, dude. And yeah, dude, the Bloxers for the third, I'm saying this correctly, the third straight time having number 5 seed. They've had it in season 1, season 2, and now season 3. Kind of funny. The Bloxers just can't avoid this seed placement no matter who they put on their team. But yeah, the Bloxers with a solid season overall. And yeah, just crazy stuff by them. Vinci, KK, Bio, and MOG. And just whoever they play, they have depth, but they've lost to top 2 duos this seed season. Next up, we got the Scorpions. And by the way, there's 3 teams tied for number 5 seed. If you're looking, there's 3 teams with 9 points. Scorpions with a 4-3-1 record as well. And they actually have a plus minus of 2, which is very interesting. But yeah, the Scorpions with an incredible season for their first ever. It was a mid-table season, but at the same time, they were very, very good. Chitra and Ronnie and Icy and Civ, such a fun duo. The Scorpions basically snatched the Aces Season 2 roster, kind of, except for Bio. But yeah, the Scorpions, oh my goodness, dude. They got some amazing wins on Pyramid, some amazing games. And overall, they held their own in their first ever season. Most expansion teams, they do pretty terrible and maybe bottom. The Scorpions didn't care. They just said, "Yeah, we'll just chill." And I gotta say, it was a really, really fun season for the Scorpions. They actually ended up capturing the most flags in the seed season. They did win 10 flags, but at the same time, all of their games were hella entertaining. You gotta give it to the Scorpions for this season. And Chitra, always entertaining, it seems. Next, we got the Pirates, who are the 3rd team in the tied race, and they had 2 wins, the lowest amount of wins ever seen, 1 regulation loss, and 5 overtime losses, bro. Ridiculous stuff. The Pirates, they tied in most of their games actually, but they lost so much in overtime, dude. They could have had 5 more points if they won all of their OTs. Think about that. They could have a 7-1 record if they won all of them. But I gotta say, Sonic and Alvin, they weren't able to play a lot of games as their top 2 duo throughout this season. They had a couple with each other, but not enough. And so the Pirates ended up playing a lot more round 3 and round 4 games than they wished for, just because of the inactivity by Sonic and Alvin and the lack of communication and what's going on. And so unfortunately, they luckily survived wildcard, but they now have to match up to a number 2 team. And we'll see if they can get those wins now, now that it matters. Will Sonic and Alvin be there, in round 1? And we'll hopefully see them in round 1. But yeah, dude, the Pirates, unfortunately it was an activity issue. Rob though had a great season. Alvin did too. You cannot give them, can't take away credit. Also, Fusion as well. Fusion, his first actually full season. Yeah, Fusion is back after some season 2 drama. But yeah, the Pirates, they avoid wild card at least, and they get 9 points still, even though they only got 2 wins. And now the wild card teams. Dark Hearts, they finished the season with a 2-3-3 record. 2 wins, again, the lowest we've ever seen, but the 2 champions, I suppose, have the lowest wins, and they broke that together. They broke that record together. They had 3 regulation losses and 3 OT losses. So Dark Hearts went to OT quite a bit as well. But yeah, I gotta say, Dark Hearts, it's just a crazy season. And yeah, also the 3 last teams had a -4 plus-minus, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, a solid season by the Dark Hearts. I mean, for having a brand new team, Crusader, Pig, these two, especially these 2 players, they're top 2, quote unquote, and Gornaz, even if you count Gornaz, these are brand new players. And the Dark Hearts, I gotta say, Crusader had one hell of a season, even though 2-3-3 record. Crazy season by Crusader, but it's really hard to be number 1 seed all the time when you literally were the most dominant team throughout season 1, season 2, and the seed season. So it's expected for them to take a step back, I'd say. And any of the Dark Hearts this season, don't ever feel ashamed for that. Your team has had a lot of success, and Storm, it was really hard for Storm, I think, this season to draft, just because there's less power lower in the draft now because of the fact that there's a 9th team. But yeah, and then the number 9 team, unfortunately the last place team, was the Knights. And the reason they're last, by the way, even though they have 1 more win, is just because the Knights lost to the Dark Hearts in their tiebreaker. And if you didn't know, that does actually count, tiebreaker, or less games played, and then winner between both tied teams. So they were tied in the standings. So Dark Hearts took it, and they get home advantage in wild card. The Knights, 3-4-1 record, and I gotta say this, and they only captured 4 flags this seed season, which I believe is the least ever seen. Unfortunately, not the best record to keep track of, but unfortunately this season we saw a lot of crazy success on one side, and we saw some unfortunate records to get broken, but it's kind of expected, you know what I mean? Especially since all of these teams, there's been very close seed seasons in the past, and it's only a matter of time, I think, before, we saw teams with 2 wins, or saw teams, and to be fair with the Knights, they didn't even have a crazy bad record. They had 3 wins, 4 regulation losses, 1 OT loss, so not even a bad record by any means. It's been seen before, but unfortunately, just the offense for the Knights has really struggled to get kick-started in this season, or at least seed season. But yeah, we'll have to find out who wins that wildcard match, and then who fights that number 1 Illumina squad. Aces Pirates as well. Let's go over to the bracket here, guys, and you can see here that we got the wild card Dark Hearts versus Knights, and so whoever wins will move over and slot here into the bracket. We got the Aliens versus the Blocksters, the 4-5 seeds once again. Aces versus Pirates, and the Firebirds versus the Scorpions. We got Patrick versus Chitra. A crazy, it's going to be I'm very excited to watch this. We got, of course, the Aces versus the Pirates again. For the Pirates are trying to get some revenge here after the Aces eliminated them last season. A rematch from season 2. We got the Aliens and the Blocksters for the first time ever actually fighting, even though they've had success. Both of them have never fought before, so that's a first time series as well between 2 OG 8 teams. And of course, the Dark Hearts and the Knights, they are rematching. They have, they played in season 2. The Dark Hearts eliminated the Knights. Can the Knights get some revenge, or will the Dark Hearts fight their rival in round 1? Yeah, so it's gonna be crazy because if the Luminas basically are just waiting, so they have to wait for the wildcard series to finish. It's gonna be interesting. This is the first time ever the Luminas will have home advantage in a tournament. The Aliens back with home advantage. Blocksters have never had home advantage. The Pirates first time is the number 7 seed. And there's so many things I could say, I guess. But yeah, dude, it's just crazy. Scorpions as well. Their first ever season at seed number 6. Solid. We'll have to see how they do on Volcano. And yeah, dude, it's just going to be a crazy one. Also, fun fact, Rustlin versus Vinci in round 1, bro. What a bloodbath, bro. I jeez, dude. One of them's out in round 1. That is actually nuts to comprehend. I think like the Aces Pyre series is going to be a lot of fun because like we have unproven players in both of this, and both of them are going to have a chance to move on to semis. Meanwhile, proven players, one of them's out in round one, which is crazy. The Luminas as well. I think the wild card and Lumina's brackets are going to be very interesting too, because you have the Dark Hearts who could fight against the Luminas. We saw the Dark Hearts play very, very well on towers as well. And then, of course, the Knights in the Luminas would be hella fun, I gotta say, as well. So I'm very intrigued to see how this goes, too. The Luminas are trying to prove something here in the tournament. They've proven a lot in the seed season. The question mark is, can they prove it now? And I'm very excited, very intrigued to see what happens in the future. But yeah, guys, it's going to be a crazy one. Stay tuned and definitely subscribe. I'm so excited to see, all the series, I guess you could say, that come out from this. And yeah, dude, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more and like the video to show support. I hope to see you in the next one.